For decades, Sam Elliott was known for many things: his unmistakable voice, his steady presence, and the quiet dignity he brought to every role. But one thing he was especially known for was his silence. He didn't chase headlines. He didn't stir controversy. He didn't explain himself. So, when word spread that, at 80, Sam Elliott had finally decided to speak openly about the actor he had been, the industry he survived, and the truths he had kept buried, people paid attention. Not because he was loud, but because he never was. Sam Elliott's career didn't begin with instant fame. There were no overnight successes, no easy doors swinging open. He came up in a Hollywood that was unforgiving, competitive, and often cruel to those who didn't fit neatly into its shifting trends. He wasn't the fashionable leading man of the moment. He didn't reinvent himself every few years. He simply stayed the course, trusting that authenticity would matter more than popularity. That belief came at a cost. In his early years, Elliott watched other actors rise quickly, men who were louder, flashier, more willing to bend themselves into whatever shape Hollywood demanded. He stayed back, not because he lacked ambition, but because he refused to pretend. That refusal earned him respect, but it also earned him long stretches of uncertainty. There were years when roles were scarce, when the phone didn't ring, when the future felt dangerously unclear. He rarely talked about those years. Not in interviews, not on stage, not even among friends. Silence became a shield. It allowed him to move forward without bitterness, without resentment. But silence also meant carrying the weight alone. By the time he reached his later years, Sam Elliott had become something rare in Hollywood, a symbol of consistency. Audiences trusted him. Directors relied on him. Younger actors admired him. Yet few truly understood what it took to maintain that steadiness in an industry built on instability. At 80, Elliott began to reflect differently. Time has a way of loosening what once felt locked away. The urgency fades. The need to protect an image disappears. What remains is the truth and the desire to finally say it out loud. When he broke his silence, it wasn't dramatic. There was no anger in his voice, no accusations, just clarity. He spoke about what it meant to be an actor who never chased reinvention, who never played the industry's games, who stayed true even when it meant being overlooked. He spoke about how difficult that choice had been and how necessary. He acknowledged the loneliness of being misunderstood, of being typecast, of being seen as reliable but rarely celebrated. Hollywood praised his presence but often underestimated his depth. He wasn't flashy enough to dominate headlines, yet too authentic to be ignored. That in-between space can be the hardest place to exist. Elliott admitted that there were moments when he questioned himself, moments when he wondered if silence had cost him opportunities, if speaking out earlier might have changed his path. But regret never fully took hold, because every role he accepted, every project he declined, was guided by a simple principle: respect the craft. As he spoke, it became clear that his silence had never been emptiness. It was observation. It was patience. It was endurance. The actor Sam Elliott had been was shaped not by fame, but by restraint. Not by noise, but by presence. And now, at 80, he wasn't breaking silence to rewrite history, he was breaking it to finally explain it. Part 2. The actor behind the voice. Sam Elliott's voice became iconic long before many people knew his name. Deep, gravelly, unmistakable, it carried authority, calm, and a kind of lived-in honesty. But what audiences often missed was the irony behind it. That voice opened doors, but it also locked him into expectations he didn't create. He spoke openly about being typecast, not with bitterness, but with realism. Westerns, cowboys, strong, quiet men, roles that required few words and even fewer emotions on the surface. While audiences embraced that image, Elliott knew there was more beneath it, layers that rarely found space on screen. Hollywood loves simplicity. It prefers actors it can easily define. And once defined, it resists change. Elliott understood this early on, and instead of fighting it loudly, he worked within it carefully. He chose roles that added subtle variations, A pause here, a look there. Small decisions that turned familiar characters into something human. Behind the scenes, however, the pressure was constant. Producers expected him to sound a certain way, stand a certain way, exist within a narrow frame. When he stepped outside that frame, he felt the resistance immediately. Opportunities became conditional. Risk was discouraged. At 80, Elliott finally acknowledged how exhausting that quiet negotiation had been. Every role required balancing authenticity with expectation. Every performance was an act of restraint not just for the character, but for himself. He also spoke about watching the industry change. How fame became louder, faster, more disposable. How younger actors were pushed to brand themselves instead of develop themselves. He didn't criticize them, he understood the system had shifted, but he admitted feeling disconnected from it. For Elliott, acting was never about exposure. It was about presence, being believable, being honest, being still when stillness was required. That philosophy often clashed with an industry increasingly obsessed with attention. There were roles he turned down that would have brought more fame. Projects that promised visibility but demanded compromise. Saying no wasn't easy. Each refusal came with uncertainty. But each acceptance of the wrong role, he believed, would have cost him something harder to regain self-respect. He spoke gently about regret not as a wound but as a shadow, wondering what might have happened if he had been more outspoken, if he had pushed harder, if he had demanded more space. But those thoughts never lingered long, because his career, though unconventional, was built on intention. The silence he kept allowed his work to speak for him. It allowed audiences to trust him without explanation. And while it sometimes limited his reach, it preserved his identity. At 80, Sam Elliott wasn't trying to redefine himself. He was clarifying who he had always been. An actor who valued craft over clout, substance over spectacle, longevity over momentary success. Breaking his silence wasn't about exposing Hollywood, it was about revealing the quiet cost of surviving it without losing oneself.